Hello, investors. This is Todd Thomas, Associate Portfolio Manager with Revere Asset Management. Today is Wednesday, November 5th. The time is 5:12 p.m. Coming to you from Boca Raton, Florida, to bring you the Revere Roundup Daily Market Insight video. Big change from yesterday. Uh, Still on the trend gauge with the four up green arrows. Slight movement in some of the sub arrows today since the leaders acted 180 degrees different than yesterday. We moved the sub arrow from a neutral to the grow area, so moved it further over to the right, indicating less of a deterioration in the leaders. We did slightly move the 21-day moving average for the RSP, which is the S&P equal weight, the mid caps and small caps, slightly over more since it was a rebound and breadth was better today. Same done for the medium term 50-day moving average, as the small caps are now above the 50-day moving average after falling below it yesterday, but the RSP and mid caps are still below it. Overall today, big change on positive economic data plus earnings, which drove a rebound. Not quite taking back all of yesterday's losses, but trading within yesterday's ranges. The 21 over 21 was up 3.6%. That was down, I believe, more than 4% yesterday. 15 were up, 6 were down. The Turbo 12 was up 3.47%, with 9 up and 3 down. Big 8 was up 0.7%. The RG8 was up 1.49%. The S&P closed up 0.37%. Equal weight doing better, up 0.59%. Q's up 0.66%. Equal weight up 0.97%. Dow up 0.48, mid caps up 0.69%, Russell 2000 up 1.54%, reclaiming the 50-day, 60/40 up 0.21, GROTECTION up 0.74, and TurboTection up 1.45. Let's get into the indexes and see what happened today. As you can see, the S&P 500 opened slightly down today toward the 21-day moving average and bounced intraday. We opened pretty much right around the low territory, made the lows within the first 30 minutes of the day, rebounded and had a strong trend day, really up right into the last half hour of the day, and then sold off into the last half hour of the day. That really appeared driven primarily by NVIDIA, which had a pretty abrupt sell-off into the end of the day and closed down 1.75%. Not sure exactly if there was any news on NVIDIA, but that seemed to be the big driver in the S&P sell-off at the end of the day. Let's take a look at the RSP. RSP also sold off a little bit intraday, but traded off actually higher than yesterday's levels, but still below the 50 and the 21-day moving average, as this index has struggled to really break out. The Qs also opened toward the low end of the day, held the 21-day moving average. Let's take a look at the 5-minute chart there. Yep, we basically opened toward the low end within the first half hour, rallied, and then had that sell-off with NVIDIA toward the end of the day, giving some of the gains back. But still, we'll take it. NASDAQ 100 equal weight, right on that 8 EMA. So breadth was better, and this recovered the intraday losses of yesterday. You can see this held up relatively well, but did sell off a little bit also at the end of the day. Dow Jones reclaimed the 8-day moving average and really is the healthiest looking index of many of these. The small or the mid caps got rejected today at the 21-day moving average, but still up 0.69% on the day. And Russell reclaimed that 50-day moving average and ran into the 21-day moving average today. So again, good to see the Russell holding this 21-day moving average. We had a test of that the 50-day moving average, which we had a test of back in July, and this is the second test. VIX today sold off, which is good to see, down 7.5% at 18.01. Getting that 20 level getting rejected from yesterday. but did spike a little bit toward the end of the day. US dollar flat on the day after making a higher high. Gold up 1.16% on the day, but still below its intermediate term moving averages. And the miners recovered 3.5%, still below the 21-day moving average and the 50-day. Silver right there at the short term and intermediate term 21-day, up 2.13%. And Bitcoin recovered, closed right on that 200-day moving average. Total bond market, bonds got hit today, and overall, we saw some selling in bond prices here today, which we'll get into some of that economic news. And let's look at the TLT, which is the 20-year bond prices. That also broke that 50-day moving average, closed down 1.09%. Again, these are the 20-year bond prices. And the 30-year bond yields were up 6.6 basis points today, reclaiming that 50-day moving average. And yields are now 4.73%. And the 10-year note closed up 6.8 basis points at 4.157%. That also reclaimed the 50-day moving average on the yields. MAGs right on the ADMA up 0.76%. And that's pretty much it for the inter-asset correlation. Let's get into the tail of the tape. Okay, still in that uptrend from the 422 and 423 follow-through days. Still all 6 index stochastics are pointing downward. All eight of the Revere Growth 8 composite were positive today. None were down. NASI still pointing downward. Dollar was flat today. And bond yields were up today, which is negative. Prices were down. The percentage of stocks on the S&P above the 5-day moving average went up to 57% today, and the NASDAQ 100 went up to 45%. The NASDAQ 100 was down to 25% yesterday, so that's a pretty big recovery above that 5-day moving average. Whenever we're in that 25 to 20% range, that's a pretty oversold level for the NASDAQ 100, and that's an area where we'll start looking at strong stocks potentially gapping down and watching their behavior to add them. Overall sentiment, VIX, this was earlier, but it closed around 18, right around 18, down about 7%. That needs to be updated. Fear and greed went up just slightly, but we're still in extreme fear at 25. That went up 4 points. We'll get the updates on the AAII and the NAAIM tomorrow to see if that NAAIM backed off this past week, which again, we talked about how over 100 is an extreme situation. Still operating under the bull case. Today, we rebound on positive economic data plus strong earnings reports. We'll get into some of the earnings reports. Now let's talk about some of the economic data today. This morning, we got the October ADP employment change, which was up 42,000. Consensus was up 26,000. So that alleviated some of the softening fears in the job markets. Also, the S&P services PMI and ISM services index both came in above the key level of 50. PMI was up 54. And the ISM was up 52. So that's above the contraction level. So that was a positive surprise. That definitely put pressure on bond yields. And the takeaway there is this report will further confirm that a December rate cut is probably off the table. However, we're still not getting several economic numbers due to the government shutdown. Also, poly market odds show that President Trump's tariffs will not be upheld, as the odds of the tariffs being upheld plunged to only 20%. after the Supreme Court started deliberations on the legality of President Trump's tariffs. And several of the conservative justices expressed skepticism regarding his authority to use the IEEPA as a means of upholding those tariffs. Okay. So that was really the key data that sent the market higher today, as well as some of the key earnings reports. Very strong action in some of the names. Going on, today's keys were currently below the 80 MA, above the 21 on the S&P, just below the 80 MA on the Qs, but above the 21 day, and below the 21 day, but now above the 50 day on the Russell 2000. Day count from down 1 to up 1, 2 days below the 8 EMA on the S&P, and now 14 days above the 21 EMA. Overall, opened relatively flat, slightly down. Made lows within the first 30 minutes, then trend day up to 68.30, and an end of the day sell-off to 67.96. Overall, overnight lows of 67.21 and overnight highs of 67.80 in the futures. S&P average true range went up to 1.25% from 1.15 yesterday. S&P up 0.37. GROTECTION was up 0.74%, turbo up 1.45. Strong sectors today. Bond yields were up. US dollar actually was flat on the day. So really all but one S&P sector was up today. One was down, and that was, I believe, the staples. But the XLY, consumer discretionary, tech, and industrials were up today. Solar really stood out today, and we'll see some of the reversals in one of the key earnings reports there. Jets was up strongly today. Gold and semiconductors. On the downside, bond prices, as well as aerospace and defense, software, oil, and commodities, but down very moderately there. GROTECTION added to Teradyne today. Also bought a position in CCJ Cameco on earnings. They reported earnings today, opened down and held. So we added that. And we also had an offensive trim in Robinhood, which came out with earnings after the close and is trading higher on the earnings. Currently, the Revere BAT risk-adjusted beta is 1.36 and balance at risk minus 5.26. Turbo added to Amazon and SSO and bought a new position in Lemonade, which was an earnings gap today, and took a position in SoFi, which came out with earnings last week. Currently, their adjusted beta is at 1.43 and balance at risk of minus 5.39. Bottom line, leaders bounced today with a light fade into the close. Now let's look at the new additions to the portfolio today. CCJ on earnings bounced off the 21-day moving average, low risk stop loss below that 21-day moving average if it doesn't work. And also the addition of Teradyne by GROTECTION. Teradyne continues to make a higher high and what looks to be a very constructive post-earnings gap pattern. This is a company that makes test equipment, and one of the standout areas was their large increase in sales for memory, which memory is currently the hottest theme in the market, as we will see in some of these areas. Turbo took a position in Lemonade today. Lemonade is currently not making money, but this was just a very nice gap through this extremely nice base. Gathered steam added to their position. Looking at the weekly chart on this, this is the highest level that Lemonade's been since late 2021. So extremely nice breakout and follow through on Lemonade. Also added to their position in SSO today. Let's see, what else did Turbo do? SoFi. as that's a GROTECTION holding as well. SoFi post earnings has been holding nicely above this ADMA. So that is the new additions to both portfolios. Let's look at the 21 over 21 list today and look at the biggest price gainers. Light Lumentum came out with earnings last night. Extremely strong guide for the December quarter, and that stock gapped. Already, it's been on a torrid pace here. Gapped open here. Wasn't any particular news, but extended that gap up 23% today. Really the biggest volume that this thing's traded looks like going back to August of last year. So extremely strong breakout there. Micron, new 52-week and all-time high today, as the memory stocks were extremely strong, and that appears to be the area that's leading the AI sector. Teradyne went over that. These are the coin shares of the Bitcoin mining data centers. They were up 6.4%, holding that 21-day yesterday, as well as closing right on that 21 and or under that 8 and recovered today, looking very strong. Solar's looking extremely strong, with First Solar up 5% today. Veritiv reclaiming the 8-day moving average, and Credo, after this big move on the Amazon Web Services number on Friday, really just holding that ADMA with earnings next month. Celestica just continuing to flag. This has been one of the leading stocks in AI. And Robinhood trading down about 2% after hours on earnings. Did not catch what they reported yet, but must not be terrible by any means. Tesla up 4% on the day. Let's see if there's anything else. AMD had earnings last night. It was a beat and raise quarter, and the stock opened down in the pre-market and in the morning, but recovered and really nice hammer and close above the ADMA. AMD is one of the leading stocks right now in the chip sector. On the downside today, just some moderate downside in Snowflake, which has been extremely strong. Raytheon or RTX in the aerospace area down. That was really one of the only down groups today. Palantir reclaimed its 21-day moving average after opening below it. Definitely always valuation fears on Palantir, so that stock tends to get whipped around whenever there's talk of high valuation. Mongo, MDB, down on the day, and NVIDIA, we showed that intraday sell-off toward the end of the day today. And CCJ down on the day about 1.7%. Going to the Turbo 12, some really big monsters in this today, with IREN expected to come out with earnings tomorrow night, making a new all-time high. Definitely the leader in the data center area. SanDisk, another memory stock, just monster new 52-week high, all-time high. Bloom Energy just not giving anything back. AAOI, which has earnings tomorrow night, up 6%. Southern Copper recovering up to almost 4% on the day, and Symbotic holding that 8-day moving average. And that is really it. On the downside, Tempest AI, which reported earnings last night, did bounce off the lows, but did break the 50-day moving average. And AVAV broke its 21-day moving average also. Carmen Holdings also right on that 21-day moving average. Before we wrap it up, let's just go through some of the big leading earnings today. We saw Lemonade, we saw Light. Teva Pharmaceuticals was a big breakout in the medical generic drugs group. Enphase in the solar area with a big reversal. Actually, I don't believe that was the one. That was not the one that reported, I don't believe. Yeah, sorry. Amgen with a breakout today on earnings. And on the downside, Humana and ANET. After the close tonight, just looking at a few names. Oh, also Axon on the downside. was a beat and raise quarter, but definitely crashed through that 200-day moving average and SMCI. Oh, Solar Edge. Solar Edge was the name that just had a massive reversal today. Look at that on huge volume. Reported earnings. Not sure if it was a beat and raise or a miss, but this is definitely a key reversal on big volume. And you can see that this has gone from a couple quarters of negative earnings to anticipating profitability again in 2026. So sales and earnings definitely picking up here as we get into fiscal 26. So looking at the TAN, which is the solar ETF, extremely strong uptrend, kind of an ascending type move, along with First Solar as one of the leading stocks in that group, and Next Tracker as well. So that group is definitely standing out right now. After the close today, few earnings reports just to go over quickly. AppLovin up 7% on the day, 6% after hours. Nice beat and raise there. IONQ, which is trading up about 3% after hours, and ARM Holdings, which is currently up about 2.69% after hours. So that is, let's wrap it up for today. And, let's look at what comes out tomorrow on earnings before we wrap it up. We've got, let's see, Oscar Health, Datadog. Tomorrow after the close, we've got IREN, as mentioned, SoundHound, NewScale, Airbnb INOD. So kind of wrapping up this week's earnings season. And that is it for the daily review. Again, my name is Todd Thomas. If you have any questions, you can reach me at todd@revereasset.com. Follow us on X. My Twitter handle is at ToddMichael70. If you'd like to become a client or have any questions, please give us a call at 855-REAL-WEALTH. That's 855-732-5932. Have a great day, and we will talk to you tomorrow.